guys! Welcome back to my channel. So for today's episode, gagawa tayo ng game server for a particular game called Counter-Strike so that private matches can be enjoyed. Also, you don't need a local CPU to run your server. Due to the popularity of cloud technologies, we will be using Google Cloud. Bakit Google Cloud? Currently right now, Google Cloud offers $300 free credits. Actually, you can use it for a maximum of 3 months. So today, we will be using Google Cloud to host our CSGO server. Make sure that it runs and friends will be able to connect and play with us. We'll also run through the game to make sure that we will be able to connect to that particular game server. Okay? So start na tayo. I've already prepared. First, for the first step, you need to have a Google account. So the first thing that you can see here is that you have to access Google Cloud.google. So search nyo lang is yung Google Cloud. Once the page loads, ito yung makikita nyong window. So when you see this window, so I have this pre-created account. So let's get started. So we'll just click here, get started for free. Before we do an actual installation, we will be activating first my account to be able to access that $300 credit for free. Okay, let's agree. Makikita nyo naman dito, guys. $300 credit for free. Put Google Cloud to work for $300 in credit to spend over the next 90 days. So next, we'll tap continue. So there, so we'll change the account type into an individual. So once you've already filled up this part, okay, you can already click start my free trial. So don't worry, it's not gonna auto charge on your credit card after the free trial ends. It's more like a guarantee that you will be using the account. So let's just say it's just a personal project. Let's click next. What brought you to Google Cloud? Guru, let's just say find a solution. Hosting. So we'll be hosting a game server. What are interests? So technically, we'll be interested in virtual machine. And actually, you can skip it, or you could just click next. What describes your role? Let's just say other. A gamer. You're just gonna be playing a game. So once done, so you can see here and in our first screen, in our welcome screen, so ito yung mga makikita natin, guys. So to start off, we'll have to go to the compute engine and create a virtual machine instance. There you go. So nag-load na siya. So at first, you need to enable a compute engine API. So tap this to enable that. For this tutorial, we'll be creating a game server with basic functions. So you'll be able to connect and start a game 5 versus 5 with your friends. Okay, so it has already loaded. As you can see, there's no instance yet. So what we're going to do is, of course, let's click on create instance. So it loaded. So here are the things that you need to know when building a virtual machine. So dito, name actually doesn't really matter as long as you'll be able to identify it, what particular region you're going to set it. But for me, normally in our region, it's okay to have, like for example, yeah, I already have an instance for Singapore. I can say that it's for tournament. Let's just say for this tutorial. So instance tutorial, right? So for the region, actually, you can click, or there are several locations that you can choose. Dito kasi magdedepende. Like for example, you're living in the Middle East or you're living in Europe, you have to choose some location that is near your place. Why? So that your ping, your connection to that particular server is faster, right? So for us, we'll be choosing Singapore. So for the zone, actually, you can just choose any of this, but particularly, I'll just choose the default one. Okay, for the machine configuration, we can just use an E2, which is the default configuration. Then for the machine type, 2 virtual CPU and 4 GB of memory. I think this is a bit low for our game server. We'll choose somewhere, let's just say 4 virtual CPU with a 16 gig memory. So that is enough to play game and be able to stream with that particular power. So next, so skip na natin to. We'll be changing the disk that we'll be using. So for this one, we'll be choosing what operating system we will be running on our game server. So for this server, we'll be running Ubuntu. Okay. So for Ubuntu, we'll be running. Let's just say we'll just choose the default 16, version 16. And to be sure, here you'll be choosing what size is your storage. For a game server, you just need 50 gig. Is a safe bet. So we'll choose 50 and then select. Now we can leave this on this option to be default. This is also for default. And for the firewall, we'll allow HTTP traffic. For now, we'll just skip all of this part and click create. So now it will be creating an instance for us, a virtual machine, where we can install the CSGO game server. Okay. So let's just wait for a few minutes. Okay. So I think we can hide this part. We can exit this part. So our window is much bigger and we can see clearly what we're looking at. So we already have, as you can see here, we already have a virtual machine, which has an internal IP and external IP. We'll get to that later. So next, let's just click on this. We'll open the instance itself. Okay, for this part, we'll be setting up our IP, since that, as you can see here, we need to make this static. Kailangan static siya. So we'll click on view details. Okay. And then we'll click on external IP addresses. Here. So you can see here that there's a drop down. So drop down nyo lang. Click static. You can put any name on it. Like for example, tutorial IP or whatever. Or tutorial. Let's just say tutorial. So you can reserve that specific IP. I-reserve nyo yan. It's not going to change, so it's reserved for you. Okay, so we've done that. So on the next part, this is the part that we'll be configuring, since we already have the virtual machine. Once we install the game, how will other people be able to connect to our server? Now, with our current setup, hindi sila makaka-connect. So what you're going to do is go to the firewall. Click on firewall. Remind me later. Okay, here. So these are the defaults. These are the default IP or firewall configuration on the server. So we'll be creating a new firewall rule. Let's click on that. So let's just say it's the tutorial. Okay. Now we'll go to the target. So you can skip all of this part. Let's keep it at default. So for the targets, let's just say all instances in the network. And for the IP ranges, since that we want everyone to be able to connect and not just specific IPs, so we'll keep the IP address at this. Okay, 0. Now for TCP and UDP, let us show this one. Okay. So I've already prepared some of the IPs that I will be needing and the ports as well. So we'll just copy the ports. So for TCP, let's go back to the window. Go back to the window. TCP. It's already been pre-filled since I've already done this before. So, but still, let's paste this. For UDP, let's go back to the file again. And then let's click and choose for the UDP. So apologies guys, I'm not going to be diving into the terminologies that is needed for the TCP and UDP. Okay, so we'll just focus on creating the game server itself. So for UDP, let's just copy paste. And once you've already done that, source IP check, you've already done that, TCP check, UDP check, so we can just create, click create. So now we already have this particular firewall rule. Users will now be able to connect to our server. So ang next, so let's go back to our instance. Okay, so now we have set up the firewall. For this step, we will now be installing the CSGO server. But before that, we have to click on SSH. Okay, it's gonna be opening up a new window. Let's add that up. Okay, and so I'll be making it a bit bigger. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, let's put it here on the side. So we will be installing. So for this step, we will be installing now our CSGO server. So to do that, let's go to the dependency. As you can see here, before installing, you must ensure all the dependencies required to run CSGO server. So we'll just copy this part, this one. So it's also the same that I have. Okay, so copy that part. Copy paste. Then let's go back to the tab that we have launched. Let's paste that and then tap enter. It's going to be installing a lot of dependencies, and those dependencies are needed to run our CSGO game server. Let's just wait for it to finish. So guys, if you have any other questions, make sure to comment below if there's something I missed or if there's something that you didn't understand from the steps that I provided. While we are waiting, make sure guys to follow, subscribe, and share the video for more tutorials in terms of game servers, coding, development, and others that you need to know. And also the things that I'll be sharing in the future. So it's almost done. So once done, we make sure that we have already installed all of the dependencies that our CSGO server will need. So next, let's go back to the website. So once we have done that, right? So let's click on install. So for this part, technically you can skip this part, or you can do this. But for me, I've already prepared a script where you can set up your user and password. So I'll teach you that next following step. Okay, so what we need to do here is to download this particular application. This will install our utility, so copy that. So let's go back to our window. So let's paste that and just press enter. Okay, so as you can see here, there's already a given command, CSGOServer install. That's also the same. That you can see here in our instructions, on our base instructions, right? Okay, so for this part, we will be installing the CSGO server. So let's go back to the window, previous window. So let's just follow what it's being said. So CSGO server, or you can just press tab, shortcut it, install, or okay, so you could just type install, and then once you have entered that, just press enter. So now on this part, it will be installing the actual game itself. It's gonna take some time. Usually for the installation, it's gonna take about 20 to 25 minutes. So it's gonna take a bit of time. So let's just wait for it to finish. Okay, for this part, before the 20 minutes starts, we need to configure first the directory. So before we begin the 20-minute mark, there are things that we need to configure first. One is yung directory. So now, it's saying that the directory will be home cloud CSGO 4. Okay, so I'll just say yes. So it created a directory. So it's already checking its dependencies, that I've already covered everything. So don't worry. If there's any missing dependencies, the game actually retrieve it automatically. So it's already setting up. All of the dependencies have been completed. It will now be installing the actual game. This is the part that we have to wait for 20 minutes for it to be fully installed. So I'll get back to you once it's done.
Few moments later.
So while we are waiting, magkikreate na tayo ng game server token. So for the game server token, we have this particular site that we need to access. So for this part, we'll be getting a server account. So here, in order for you to create, just say 730, and then you can just name it whatever you like. Okay. But for me, I've already created one for tutorial server, so I'll be copying that. And we'll be saving this for later. Okay, so let's go back to our installation. Okay, so at this point, CSGOServer has been fully installed. Was the install successful? Yes, let's just enter. It's downloading a few configurations, bulk files. So let's skip this. Need to fill this up. Allow anonymous usage statistics. No. Well, you could choose to say yes, but I choose no. Okay, at this point in our tutorial, so we're almost done. As you can see, let's check first. Our files is already there, so server files. So let's check if CSGO is already there. Okay, so our CSGO is already, our CSGO folder is already there. Okay, let's check. So everything is all set. Now what we need to do is make a file or a script that auto runs our particular server. So for this part, don't worry, I'll be including the file, the template on the description below. I'll be providing a link. So as you can see here, this is the internal IP that we have on the instance. This is the token that we have generated. So what we do now is copy all of this. Just copy this. And just hide it again. Let's go back into the screen. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to be creating a file, right? So we're going to be creating a file called start.sh. So here, at this point, we'll just, what we have copied a while ago, we're just going to be pasting it here. There you go. We have to do Control X to exit. Then we'll just, no, save modified buffer. Let's say yes. Shift Y, then file name to write, start.sh, then press enter. Okay, to verify that we have created that particular file, we can check on that. Say type ls. So here you can see we have already created such file, right? So everything is okay. Let's try to run it. Let's see if it's gonna work. So just follow my command and just press tab. See if it's gonna run. So on this part, we are already running the actual game server. Let's see if it's gonna run. Okay. So we have connection to the Steam server successful. So this part, let's try to connect to our game server. So let's quit that. So let's check on this. Let's go to server files, CSGO, go to configurations, type ls. We have server configuration. So none yet. So we'll create one. Server configuration. Let's just paste here. So we'll be pasting here a configuration that I've already pre-made. So I'll be explaining to you what are the things that you're seeing right now. So here is the host name of our server. This is what will be shown if you add this into our server directory. This is for the Archon password. So this is more like an administrator rights. So you'll be able to configure a lot of commands inside the CSGO game server. This is the server password, so that you'll be able to connect to the server. And for the others, like for this one, it disables the cheat, it disables the auto kick, it disables the auto team balance. So mostly everything that you need. And for this one, it enables you to have a Go TV. What is a Go TV? It's more like when players are playing in your server, you'll be able to watch it like normal spectators. So we'll just save this. Y server. Okay, so let's check if the server has been added into that particular file. So server, as you can see here, there's already server.cfg. So now we have to go back, make the server run. Okay, so let's okay, I'll show you where the server. See here. If this is showing on part of your execution, it means to say that it had read the server config file that we have configured or we have set. So now we'll be connecting to the actual game itself, and let's see if we're able to connect to that server. So the public IP is here. So let's copy that. Copy that. And then let's go now to our actual game server. Okay, so we are here in the current game. So for this part of the tutorial, you have to press the button below the escape button. Okay, so you could show the console. Connect, IP address, the password. Let's try to connect. Okay, it seems I'm able to connect now to our server. All right. So we're able to connect to our server. So, okay, so we're able to play now. All right, for this tutorial, we're able to run the game using Google Cloud service. So we've created a Google account so that we can access the Google Cloud platform. First step is we created an instance, virtual machine. Next, once we have already our virtual machine, we have already set up our firewall, right? We also set up our IP address, static. And then we've installed our dependencies that we needed to have our game running. We also have set up our game server token so that we'll be able to run our game server within our account. We also set up a few configuration, our hosting configuration, so that we'll be able to see or connect into that particular server and define a set of game configs. So guys, we are able to run the game itself on Google Cloud. So for all the instructions, I'll be including that all in the description. All of the necessary links that you need to access to be able to create your own game server in Google Cloud. Okay? I'll see you on our next tutorial episode. So guys, don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this video. Smash that like button. Okay? So, and make sure to watch our next tutorial. We'll be setting up our tournament style system so that it will be easier to manage 5 versus 5 competition. And you don't need to perform a lot of commands. Okay? Anyway, guys, thank you for watching and see you on our next episode.